User Pranina. You don't have to feel happy and positive all the time. This is something I keep seeing often on this sub. A lot of posts asking for positive vibes as a means for motivating themselves to continue because they're tired of trying to be happy all the time. It seems most of them are newbies who've misunderstood what raising your vibrations means and what manifesting means. Raising your vibrations does not mean being happy all the time. It's impossible to be happy 24/7. That's not normal, and it's not good for you. You'll only drain yourself. To understand better, let's say I put you in a room and I raise the temperature of the AC too high. What'll happen? It gets uncomfortable and you'll probably start sweating. Now, let's say I reduce the temperature too low. What'll happen? It's still uncomfortable and you'll probably start to shiver. Being happy and being sad is like two extreme temperatures. It's not good for you. You'll never feel comfortable. Now, if I adjust it to the optimal temperature, what happens? That's exactly what you want. Balance. That's the key. If you want to manifest, you need to have balance. Your body can't handle extreme emotions for a prolonged period of time. Balance is what keeps your body and mind healthy and your energy in alignment. If you want your manifestations to happen, then you need to stay relaxed and know it's already done. The last line is the key. Raising your vibrations means to be in a relaxed state of mind. Effortless effort is what manifests your desires. Hint: try recollecting a past event where something happened exactly the way you wanted it. What was the feeling that came over you after it happened? A sense of relief. A relaxed knowing it's done. That's the feeling you should have. You don't need positive vibes. You just need to know it's done. And it's okay to feel sad at times. I hope this helps someone. This next post is by Pranina again. It's the SP success story. No sats, just assumed a single feeling every night. I got my SP back and much more. Success story. I've been experimenting with a technique that many teachers have talked about, including Neville. Ever since I started implementing it, quite a lot of interesting things have happened that I can't share all of them in just one post. So I thought I'll just share only the one that people might be most interested in. I'll share this one in this post and a few more in another post. I don't want to make this too long. The technique. If all your desires are now reality, what is the single feeling you'd feel? Capture that single feeling before you go to bed and fall asleep in that feeling. No specific scenes, no resistance or doubts. My SP came back. This is one of the biggest things that's happened, but it's also something that I was hesitant to share because it's personal. I knew about the law for years before I came across Neville, but I didn't really get it. About a year ago, my SP and I were going through a very rough time. She fought with me every day. And then one fine day she texted, "I'm sorry. It's better we end it." She didn't tell me why or give me any sort of closure. She just left. I was heartbroken, and it was out of pure desperation of getting her back that led me to start digging into the law again. That's when I found Neville's teachings. The more I read, the more I understood, and especially about states of mind and assumptions. During this period of time, I tried to imagine specific scenes a few times, but there were so many opposing thoughts and doubts, I just couldn't do it. So I stopped trying. Probably the only thing I did was a mental diet, vainly repeating something like, She loves me more than anything else on this planet. My mood fluctuated like crazy during this time, and all I did was just read. Months went by, and then I got to know why she left. She'd betrayed me. It hurt me initially, but something hit me. Why was this feeling familiar? Why did I expect it? That's when I understood what Neville meant by states. I recollected how I was in the relationship before. I was always afraid that she'd leave me, fearful that I'd lose her. I was clingy and needy. I asked myself why I was like that. The answer was simple: my low self-image. Because of a painful tragedy that happened in my past, I believed that I'm not good enough and that I'd probably never find anyone else other than her. That was my state, meaning I had lost her in my mind months before I actually lost her in reality. My outer world reflected perfectly with my inner world. It all made sense. The state of our mind and how we see ourselves determines our experiences. I learned this the hard way. Then, with this understanding, I took complete responsibility for what had happened, and I let it go. No specific scenes, no mental diet, nothing. I stopped giving it attention. That's around the time I started this technique. I just felt blessed on most nights before I went to sleep. Months later, one fine day, out of nowhere, she came back saying, "I miss you." She told me everything. She cried a lot and she apologized. She said she realized that she was still in love with me and that nobody can ever replace me in her life. She even said she'd never love any other man the way she loves me. Well, for someone who said, "I really want to run away from you as far as possible," the words that were coming out of her mouth now were completely the opposite to what she'd said months ago. Normally, I would have felt ecstatic, overwhelmed with emotions. But this time, it felt different. I didn't feel desperate or any extreme happiness. I was calm and in control. That's when I realized I'd changed my state. Now, this is where my SP success story differs from the rest. I did not go ahead with it. I didn't accept her. Why? Is it because she betrayed me? No. I forgave her. Like I said before, I take full responsibility for that because I created it in my experience. So I'm the only one to be blamed. So why else did I not accept her? It's because my obsession of getting her back stemmed from the state of lack, from the fear that I'd never find anyone else. I was no longer in that state. It was a new me. That's why I didn't. We're still close friends and we still talk every day. And to be honest, it's evident that she's still in love with me. I started reading Neville to get my SP back, but instead, I got myself back. It gave me confidence, power, peace of mind, and most of all, I see infinite possibilities now. I'm no expert. I'm still learning. But my understanding of the law has deepened, and I'm not manifesting money or a new relationship or things like that now. All I'm doing is improving my self-image, my state. Everything follows your state. Master your self-image and you'll get everything effortlessly. Thank you for your patience. I know this was a long post. I hope this helps someone. How I understood imagination creates reality and knowing it's done by user Pranina. Tips and techniques. You've probably heard Neville and a lot of other people say, imagination creates reality. No, it's done. But what does it really mean? I see a lot of people have trouble in understanding this, so I thought I'd share how I understood these concepts. There are two parts to this. You have to combine both to understand it as a whole. Concept 1. Your imagination is as real as the outside world. When people imagine a specific scene in their mind, they're under the impression that they're fantasizing or daydreaming. That's far from the truth. Realize your imagination and the outer world both have the same effect on you. Have you ever had a scary dream? Your heart starts pounding hard and you start sweating, right? If I blindfold you and tell you that you're standing on the edge of a cliff, even though you might be standing on the edge of the stairs, immediately your body responds differently because you just imagined a cliff at my suggestion. So whether you actually do it or imagine it, your body responds exactly the same and produces the same effects. Why? Because the only difference between what you imagine and what you see on the outside is that they are both in different dimensions. Your outer reality is the third dimension, and your imagination is in the fourth dimension. Both are equally real to the mind because anything you see on the outside first existed in the fourth dimension. Where there are infinite realities, including the one you're in now. You move around in this 3D reality with your body, but the only way to move through different realities in the fourth dimension is your mind. Your mind uses your imagination as the spaceship to travel to these realities. This is what Neville meant by selecting states. When you occupy and dwell in a state, you activate it, meaning when you dwell long enough in your imagination, in the fourth dimension, and feel the reality of it with your bodily senses, you generate corresponding feelings that impresses it in the subconscious mind. What it simply means is you're signaling God that you want that in your third dimension, your outer reality. So when people say, no, it's done, no, you already have it, what it means is you literally have it and it's done in the fourth dimension. Now, anytime you think about your desires, rest assured you actually do possess it already in the fourth dimension. That's how you know it. This knowing is what brings that to the outer 3D reality. Concept 2. Conditions create corresponding moods. The opposite is equally true. Moods create corresponding conditions as well. The simplest example I can give you to test this is, when you're tensed or anxious, your breathing pattern changes. You take short breaths, your heartbeat increases, you're restless, your mood is cranky. Now try to mimic the mood of a person who's relaxed. So what does a relaxed person do? Takes deeper, slower breaths. Do that for a few minutes. You'll notice that within a few minutes your heart rate goes down. You're no longer anxious. Your mood isn't cranky. Assuming the mood and mimicking the reality of being relaxed actually relaxed you. So moods do create corresponding conditions as well. That's how manifesting works. So to sum it up, when you're imagining your desires, you're selecting a reality from infinite realities. When you dwell in this reality and feel it real, assuming the mood, with the help of your third dimension bodily senses, mimicking reality, it's like telling God you want that in your 3D reality, your outer world. I hope this made sense. This is how I understand it. I hope this is helpful. I like this comment on that post by a deleted user. Concept 2 sounds like what Neville calls the law of reversibility. There's a great analogy of it in wind power. 1. Wind moving air turns a windmill's blade and that produces electricity. 2. In reverse, if you plug in a hairdryer, the electricity turns the hairdryer's blade and produces moving air. 1 equals moving air producing electricity, and 2 equals electricity producing moving air. I think that's from Prayer, the Art of Believing. I'm not sure on that, but I think so. Next post by user Pranina is How I Learned to Ignore Reality. This one has several awards, 2 golds and some other things that I don't know what they are. This is probably the most difficult part of manifestation process for most people. They do SATs, mental diets, and all the other techniques, but when they see what's out there, they react. They get frustrated and lose hope. Maybe a fresh perspective on this would help. People keep asking how to ignore reality, but have you ever thought of what reality really is? Most people would say, if you can see it, it's real. Isn't that what drives people crazy? They keep reacting to what they see around them because it's real. Think about something simple. Bacteria are real. But can you actually see a single bacterium? No. How about something like radio waves? Can you see, touch, taste, smell, or hear radio waves with your human senses? Just because we can't, can we conclude that bacteria or radio waves do not exist? That they're not real? No. So there are things that we can't sense with our 5 biological senses. Then logically, how does it make sense to rely so heavily on our outer senses to believe something is real? Yes, we can see bacteria using a microscope. We can sense radio waves using a radio. So we needed an instrument to sense and conclude that they're real. Your desires are also like that. Just because you don't see them or sense them in your outer world yet, doesn't mean it's not there. You use an instrument to see and sense them, and that instrument is your imagination. Use this incredible instrument to feel your desires to be real. That is how you manifest. Remember, reality is what you make of it. I made a post about why imagination is as real as the outer world and how to know it. Read it. You literally have your desires right now in your imagination, the 4th dimension. You just have to know it to get it in the 3rd dimension. And by the way, that's the post I just read before this. Each time reality shows something different, remember this. 1. Your 5 biological senses aren't as reliable as you think. So why rely so heavily on them? 2. Imagination is as real as the outer world because they have the same effect on us. 3. Facts, as you call them, are nothing but imagination that has already come to pass. 4. And your desires are nothing but imagination that is yet to come to pass in the outer world. As Neville said, this is number 5, as Neville said, you either walk by faith, imagination, or by sight, your senses. So what are you relying on? And I think that's just so key. Numbers 3 and 4. Facts, number 3 is facts, as you call them, are nothing but imagination that's already come to pass. And 4, your desires are nothing but imagination that is yet to come to pass. So the difference between facts and desires is just whether it's come to pass yet or not. And as Neville said, you either walk by faith, imagination, or you walk by sight, your senses. The choice is up to us. Well, you've effortlessly persisted in believing you don't have your desires by relying on your senses. How's that worked for you? So why not go all in and persist that you already have it? Rely on imagination more than your outer senses. I hope this gave you a different perspective. The biggest tip that helped me. Anytime I thought about my desires, I always go to my imagination where I already possess it. Just to enjoy the feeling of having it. I stopped bothering about whether it manifested or not because I already had it. I didn't look for it in the outside. That's when they came faster. Like Neville said, there's nothing else to do. Happy manifesting. And there are a couple of comments on this one that I really like. The first one is from Open-Minded Mother, and it says, reality equals the past. Old, flavorless, chewed gum. Imagination equals coming attraction, fresh, new gum. Pranina replies, I love this simple analogy. Haha. People, please spit out the old gum and enjoy the fresh new one. And user Z6023 says, thanks for the good analogy. I think the mind likes simple ones. Once you spit it out, you never think about the old gum again. You just enjoy and savor the sweetness of the new gum. And Reagan2024 replies, nice. Old gum is spit out and seen on the ground, stuck under tables. Fresh new gum is unseen in the mouth, being chewed by one person. And Frank Avalon points out, Edgar Cayce said essentially the same thing. Those who focus on current conditions are living in the past. And then the Tempernaut, user the Tempernaut, said, there's an ancient Greek saying, and it says something in Greek, meaning, the mind sees, the mind hears, the others are blind and deaf. Learn, therefore, to see and listen with the mind. All is mind, all is imagination. Pranina replies, there's a saying in Hindu teachings that everything around us is Maya, meaning illusion. The consciousness is the only reality. I guess the ancients knew it. Oh, here's another really great one. This is from There Is Nothing But God. Thank you for this. I always say that at one time, if I would have told someone a few hundred years ago that there are these invisible forces that can harm you and in some cases help you, and you just have to trust that they're there, although you can't see them but only experience the effects of them, then people would have thought I was insane. Oh, and by the way, there's this ritual you can do by rubbing your hands in a certain way underwater, and you can get rid of these forces. Absolutely insane, except it isn't. It's germs and bacteria. Now we know. Then we didn't. Something is going on here. It's not just correlation. Someone makes a joke. Care to expound on this ritual, please? Oh, and then someone says, wait till you hear about this magic elixir. I'm sure it's going to be soap. I'm going to come back to the user Pranina thread in just a second, but I want to go off on a little tangent because Semmelweis was the person who first proposed to doctors that washing hands could reduce the incidence of childbed fever. And let's see. So he first proposed that, and he wrote a book and published it about how if you wash your hands, it can reduce the incidence of mortality in childbirth. And let's see. Despite various publications, this is from Wikipedia, despite various publications of, and hang in there with me, this is going to be applicable. You're gonna get this. Despite various publications of results where hand washing reduced mortality to below 1%, Semmelweis's observations conflicted with the established scientific and medical opinions of the time, and his ideas were rejected by the medical community. Semmelweis could offer no acceptable scientific explanation for his findings, and some doctors were offended at the suggestion that they should wash their hands and mocked him for it. In 1865, the increasingly outspoken Semmelweis, trying to save lives, it says he supposedly suffered a nervous breakdown. No, I don't know why they say supposedly, and was treacherously committed to an asylum by his colleague. Treacherously. So it sounds like they think that somebody betrayed him and had him committed to an asylum when he wasn't really suffering a nervous breakdown. They just were calling him crazy. He died a mere 14 days after being committed, at the age of 47, after being beaten by the guards. He died from a gangrenous wound on his right hand, which might have been caused by the beating. Semmelweis's practice earned widespread acceptance only years after his death, when Louis Pasteur confirmed the germ theory. And Joseph Lister, acting on the French microbiologist's research, practiced and operated using hygienic methods with great success. So there's a historical example of the established world and the scientific world calling someone crazy for telling them to do this magical thing, washing their hands, performing that ritual underwater, even though he didn't know why. And he was ridiculed and rejected. And only a few years later, when germs were discovered, it finally became acceptable in the scientific community. What an amazing story. Now, there's one more comment I want to read on this thread, and then I'll start a new recording. Okay. Oh, this is another comment by Frank Avalon. He says, I assume it's a he. They say, I like it. And I'd say that imagination is the reality generator, or for the radio comparison, the broadcast station. I power up my imaginator and broadcast reality waves. What wattage am I? 50 watts? 500 watts? 50,000 watts? I'm struck by the contrast between those who would prefer that the masses remain unaware of their powers, and Neville, who wants or wanted everyone to wake up and broadcast consciously.